All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining once again. My name is Togo Njoloma, and I'm the CEO and founder of Weinspire. So we are hosting these webinars starting from today. And that's why I'm saying that today is a very special day, just because this is our very, very first webinar in this series, but there's going to be more webinars coming up. So please, follow our pages and our social media pages to make sure that you are aware of when we are hosting the next one. But we are hosting these webinars in collaboration with MHub, Awome, as well as Ndanga Communications, as part of the International Women's Day celebration. So as you are all aware that the International Women's Day is coming up really fast in March. And the theme for this year is very exciting because we are talking about money and women. We don't want to be left behind when it comes to money conversations and, money-making activities as women. And so we're going to be talking a lot about economic empowerment, wealth creation in these webinars. But I wanted to make an announcement that these webinars are meant to extend or to expound whatever conversations we're having, because we realize that just having one day of celebration for International Women's Day is not really enough to spark a good conversation, really to hear a lot of people's experiences. And this is reason. Tamandani, can you help me mute people if possible? Yeah, and so the reason we are hosting these webinars is that we want to just extend and expound that conversation so that we can really hear from female leaders that have made it in life, and as they share their experiences, because we know that when you're on top there, chances are you're making good money, but also you're growing your career. And so we want to hear, what can we do as women to emulate that? What have been the experiences? And so these female leaders are going to be coming on these webinars to help us understand what does it mean to be on the top, but also what have been the challenges that they've encountered in their life, rising up the ladders, and also what have they been doing? Which books have they been reading? Which courses did they do? What else are they doing in their life to remain on top there and really to be able to be one of those women who are in the category of leadership? And so I'm really excited, and thank you so much, Miss Tisungane, for coming up here. I want to find where you are so that I can highlight you. Are you putting on your camera? Oh,
now it's on.
There you are, and you look so beautiful this afternoon. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So yeah, before we proceed and before I give the floor to Mr. Sungane, I just wanted to say that the main event is coming up on the 15th of March. It will be a Friday, and tickets are already out for sale. I want to encourage everyone to buy a ticket. It's only 20,000 Malawi kwacha to purchase your ticket for the main event. And there's going to be a lot of fun things happening, interesting things happening, but most importantly, it's the quality of the conversations that we're going to have, because we are highlighting leaders from different categories in the government, in the private sector, in the large corporates, but also women who are making it in business, so that we want to hear from them. Most importantly, we're inviting banks and other financial institutions to come and really tell us, what does it mean to secure loans, to invest with these banks? What does it mean for us as women to, to find money? Because it's a money conversation, right? So we want to invite these institutions to tell us, what does it take? Because generally it's very difficult for women even to secure loans in the banks, because we don't have the collateral and all that it takes. But we want to hear from them so that we can be ready. What does it mean for a woman in Malawi to start a business? And so I don't want you to miss that, because it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a full day packed with wisdom, packed with fun. There's going to be a lot of prizes to be won. The moment you purchase a ticket, you automatically enter into a raffle draw, and there's going to be awesome stuff. So it's only 20,000 Malawi kwacha for all that. I encourage you to purchase your ticket. Tamandani, can you please put your email in the chat box so that everyone else can have your email if in case they would like to know more details on how to purchase their tickets. All right, so I'm gonna open up to Ms. Tisungane, and Ms. Tisungane is the country manager for HIVOS. I don't want to say much because this lady is very phenomenal. She's only 30 and she's managing such an impactful program in Malawi. And not just to say a program, but this is an international organization. And she really inspires me so much. When I met her and heard her story, I was like, girl, how did you do it? And I just wanted to learn from her. And so thank you so much, because I know that Tisungane, you're so busy. These months are very critical in programming. I know that. But thank you so much for your humility to come and talk to us and to talk to all these amazing people who are on this webinar. So I'm going to give the floor to you. Feel free. And if there is anyone with comments, please hold on to your comments, because we're going to have a section for comments later. We just want to interact with this lady. It's very hard to find her and to get her into the room. And so if you have any questions for her, we're going to have those questions at the end. And so go for it, girl. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Togo. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, everybody who's joined during your lunch hour to sort of interact. This is an interactive session. It's not just me speaking. So as Togo has said, feel free to comment, feel free to speak up whenever you have something to say or interject. So as Togo has already said, I'm Tisungane Nanthoka, and currently I'm the country manager for HIVOS. I guess I'll just give a little bit of a background information about myself, and then we'll get a little bit more into the conversation as the hour goes. So for me, my career began 9 to 10 years ago. I graduated with my Bachelor of Science from Catholic University in 2013. So this will just be a crash course in sort of what I've done over the years. It's not, so anyway, I graduated in 2013 from the Catholic University. After I graduated, I had a year where I was not working, so I was just job hunting. And I'm sure that's an experience that we can all share, that after college, it sort of becomes, a job hunting phase. In 2014, I was lucky enough to secure my first job at Center for Youth Empowerment and Civic Education. I began there as an intern, and I'm really grateful for CSA, as we call it, for giving me, I think, my first job and my first opportunity into the development sector. So I was at CSA for 2 years, and that's where I really, I think, learned about project management, and they really entrusted me there to manage some projects. So I was there for 2 years, and I had some phenomenal leaders there to learn from as well. The best part about CSA was that they give opportunities to young women, especially new graduates as well, to sort of learn about work. So for me, it was a really great opportunity that I was accorded that chance. When I left CSA, I moved to Danchurch 8, where I was a project officer. And so this was a sort of a departure from working for a local NGO to an international NGO. So I think for me, that was also where I was able to tell the difference and really get a really I was sort of thrown into the deep end rather. But also another difference with joining Danchurch 8 was that I was managing a project that had 4 other organizations. Consortium of organizations, and these were all organizations that were led by men. And so as for me, I was quite young at the time, but also I think I had 4 years of experience, but here I was working with men that were, some of them older than my father, but also they, were managing these organizations that they had been managing for a very long time. Some had 20 years of experience. But I think one of the things that I really told myself was that I was there on merit. It wasn't because I was handpicked. I had worked for that position, but also I deserved to be there. So that was one of the things that really, I think, allowed me to be able to lead that project, but also just knowing that I had the technical capabilities to be able to lead that consortium. So after that is when I moved to DAI. When I worked with DAI, I think that's when I first, we'll get maybe that into later, but when I faced one of my biggest career challenges, and this was working with, I think, in a male-dominated sector with maybe not the best type of managers, I actually tried to resign 2 times from that job. So if you're a young woman somewhere out there thinking of, I need to quit this job, don't quit that job. Sometimes I think it just takes having people in your corner. I was lucky that I had another supervisor that really, pushed me and said, as long as you're doing your job, you can navigate these challenges. So they didn't accept my resignation good enough at the time, and I was able to continue that job. And then from there, I moved to the US Embassy, where I was for 2 years. And here I learned, I think, a lot about networking. I was working in exchange programs such as the YALI, the Fulbright, and other exchange programs, if you've heard about them. So here, I think I was pushed out of my comfort zone, because if anyone knows me, I'm a quiet person. I'm not an out there person. So this job really pushed me to be out there. And I think one of the things that I can share here is that always be able to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Even if it means you have to interact with people that you normally wouldn't interact with. And that's really what I did in that role. So that was, and some of the networks that I built in that job, I still use until today. So I think sometimes it may not seem important at the time, but as you go, it becomes important to say, in hindsight, that was a very good connection. So which brings me to today, now working as a country manager at HIVOS. Of course, when I joined HIVOS, I joined as a project manager, where I worked for 3 years, and then now I'm in this role as a country manager. So maybe let me stop there as a way of introduction. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh my goodness, that is career progression indeed, and I'm really impressed. You mentioned something that is so dear to my heart, in the sense that, a lot of women, we tend to give up so easily, especially when we face challenges in the work environment. And I'm so glad that you shared that, we need to hang in there. I know that you say that, you need to have people in your corner. And I want to link that with the point that you mentioned about networking when you were at the US Embassy. Can you elaborate more the connection between, networking and your career, and how is that so important?
Right, sure. So I think networking, sometimes we use it as a buzzword. We say, oh, network, be out there. But sometimes networking doesn't have to be you going into a big room, greeting the who's and who's who are there. Sometimes networking can be just simply making a LinkedIn connection. Networking doesn't always have to be, no one invited me to this conference, so therefore I cannot network.
Okay, we have a technical glitch there. I'm gonna wait a little bit. So while we're waiting for Mr. Tisungane to come back, I just wanted to ask if anyone has a question. You can either unmute right now, or just put it in your comments. Yes, Tamara, I can see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Exciting conversation. My name is Tamara. I have a question in regards to networking. Actually, she picked on a point that I resonate well with. I'm an introvert and I'm a leader. I know the place of networking, but sometimes I'm the type of person, if I meet someone in the street and I know them, if they don't look at me, I'll not greet them. So I really wanted her to speak more on the practicalities of networking. What does it mean to network? For instance, you go in a meeting, you go in a conference. Those are easy places where you can build a network. But for an introvert, what are some of the practical things that you have had to do to build an authentic and strong network?
That's a very awesome question. I was gonna take that conversation that way, because I know I'm that person. If you don't look at me, we don't have business. So, Go ahead, Tisungane, and welcome back.
Thank you. I'm sorry I dropped. I had a network issue. Yeah, thank you for that question. I think as introverts, you're right. Sometimes if someone doesn't make eye contact, we'll just, turn ahead. And sometimes people can mistake that for, oh, she's rude, or maybe they don't want to interact. But I always say that because of maybe the nature of an introverted personality, sometimes it's better to connect with people in smaller groups, because sometimes working in a big room, in a crowded room, can be quite challenging. So for me, what I found is if I'm at a meeting and I'm sat next to somebody, I'll try to network directly with that person. And because maybe sometimes you don't want to speak to a whole large group of people, or if it's during a break time or tea break time, maybe I'll identify a table where there's lesser people. And this may not work for, obviously, people that are comfortable maybe talking to large groups of people. I'll identify a table where there's lesser people, or maybe if there's 1 or 2 people. And for me, that works best, because it means even if it's a small number, but I'll make a quality networking sort of impact, rather than if I'm trying to speak up in maybe a large group of 6 or 7 people, whereby it may not be my natural sort of space. But also, like I said, that sometimes it doesn't always have to be in person. Sometimes it can be making a LinkedIn connection and just sending, hi, thank you for connecting, I'm so and so. So sometimes those, because if you're an introvert, it may work best if maybe you're just typing behind a screen or just sharing your business card. That's also part of networking, because sometimes that person will report to say, oh, I met so and so, and they shared me their business card. So it's not always about trying to work a large group of people or a large number of people. You can always make those connections with 1 or 2 people. And as time goes, I think it becomes a gradual process. But also, I think in the workplace, like I've said, making those introductions to, if people pass by, for instance, like I've said, like working at the US Embassy, we were working with different people to identify maybe members of parliament or people in the CSO sector. So it's always important to still push yourself out of your comfort zone, because comfort is easy, it's fun. But I think sometimes that to get the job done, I'll have to introduce myself to this person so that I can get their contact and we can move forward and progress with our work. So yes, sometimes it's comfortable to just work with the smaller crowd, but I would also say, push yourself out of that comfort zone. It's not always easy, because I think for me, like I've said, I also am in that same sort of realm, but sometimes I just have to push myself, because that's what works for us to get the job done. I hope I sort of have answered your question.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that, Tisungane, that one of the things or the strategies that I have used as a person who doesn't really feel comfortable interacting with a larger group of people is to find the people that to introduce you to people. Because people know people and people know people. That way you can grow your your network. And I think it takes a lot of intentionality to do that. I've had to, especially being here. I'm in Canada right now, and I've grown my career here. It's very difficult sometimes to, you wonder, where do I start?
Are you there?
Yeah. You can't hear me?
I think you dropped for a little bit, but you're back now.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you. Yeah, so I was just saying that sometimes it can be overwhelming to just think about, where do I start from? Sometimes the people that you want to interact with maybe are people that don't do the things that you do, or maybe they're the people who don't really look like you, right? So it takes sometimes to just find someone who knows somebody. And just be intentional, just be upfront to say, you know what, I want to know people. Do you know anyone we can hang out with and just get to know? And you can go out for a dinner, for a coffee, or just ask them intentionally and just invite them to say, you know what, at lunch hour, I just want to hang out with you and just get to know you better. People are very receptive to that. A lot of people are very welcoming to that idea. So go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a hand up from Esther Jailos. See, go ahead, Esther.
Thank you so much, Toko, and thank you so much, Tisungane, for a very elaborate information you have shared. I have few questions. The first question is to do with your challenges in the workplace, as well as the time you was hunting for the job. Nowadays in Malawi, we are facing a lot of challenges whereby professional women, when they are looking for jobs, there is a demand of giving out their bodies for them to be considered, though they are already qualified. So I would like to find out from you, how did you face those challenges, and how did you address those challenges? The second question is, I see you as a professional woman, and in you, I see a lot of women being supported through you, others being just motivated and work extra hard to be like you in future. My question is, what are you doing as Tisungane to make sure that by the end of your life or your time, you should be able to support other women who are below, just to uplift them in different sectors, so that they should be reliable citizens in future. The last question is, how can we work together as women to act as role models in in different sectors. That's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Toko, do you want me to go ahead and take this?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your questions, Esther. So I'll start with the first one. I think you said about challenges in job hunting. You're very right. Right now, the job sector, even back then, the job sector has always been, I think, a challenge to get into, and especially when you're just starting out, can be a little bit of a daunting task to, you write 100 letters and you get nothing back, or if you write 100 letters, all of them are just telling you that your application was unsuccessful. So like I said, for me, even when I was starting out, I had a whole year where I was just in my room, and I think I even battled some depression, because you know how it feels when you graduate, you're excited, you're in the industry, as it's called, finally, but then you get nothing back. You write these letters and you get nothing back. I think for me, like I said, I was very fortunate that I was able to secure the internship that I secured at the time with Center for Youth Empowerment and Civic Education. I think what I would say about that, as you enter the workforce, sometimes you have to be willing to work below maybe what you think you deserve. Because I think sometimes when we graduate or we just get our degree, we think, oh, I'm just going to go there, I'm becoming a specialist, I'm going to become a project lead of something, because that's what we all are taught, right? You're going to get this degree, you're going to get a good job. So I think even at the time when I started out at zero salary, and I took that. I'm thankful that my parents were supportive, they gave me transport, but not everyone has that sort of opportunity. But for me, I think I was lucky enough. I was able to have supportive parents. It was almost like I was going to school. They were giving me lunch money and everything. But I was saying, you know what, this is for the bigger picture. So when you start out into the workforce, maybe take that volunteer position, take that unpaid internship, because sometimes that's what builds the CV. The challenges are there, yes, but I would say that if someone is just starting out, it may not be fun at first, but it's what gets your foot in the door, so to say, especially as young women, as you've said. Maybe some people they'll want to offer you to say, oh, if you do this for me, then I'll give you a job. It's very hard, and some women are going through that. But for me, I was lucky that I got into an organization that entrusted me with the internship position. And I think after 6 months, they gave me a project to manage. So another thing is to say that, yes, when you get that internship, it can be easy to say, oh, I'm not getting paid, so I'll just not go to work for 2-3 days. But for me, I was there every day, and I knocked off at 5, just like a normal employee. And maybe that's what prompted them to give me that sort of project afterwards. So I would also say to encourage that if someone is starting, have the work ethic that you need to have as an employee. And then also, I think you talked about challenges maybe right now. Besides from when you're job hunting, also I think challenges that we face as women generally, people who often put us in a box. They will stereotype us and say that maybe sometimes some people say women are difficult managers. I've heard lots of people say, I don't want to work with a woman. Women are difficult. I think one of the challenges that I usually face as a woman is that, sometimes no one wants to listen to you because you're a woman. Like I said, that when I was at Dan Church Aid, I was managing a project with a consortium of 4 men who were most of them older than my father at the time. And you would say, sometimes I would give an instruction, but if it comes maybe from the finance, who is a man, then there would be more recipient to it. So sometimes women were put in a box to say, oh, she's a woman, I'm not going to take what she's saying simply because she's a woman. So I think one of the things is stereotypes that we face as women. But also another challenge is balancing personal life and professional life. Because, as women, we want to win it all. We want to be the leaders that we are, but we also want to win in our homes. We want to be good mothers, good wives. And that's one of the challenges I think that also as a woman I've faced, because how can I win it all? And that's one thing I'm always, I think, still till now, constantly battling with and saying, how can I win it all? How can I have it all in my career, but also in my home? So that's still something that, yes, exactly, superwoman syndrome. That's still something that I still have a challenge with, to say that if I don't win at home, then I feel that, then nothing in my career matters. I can be a country manager, but maybe because I'm not married, then that means nothing to anyone. So I think as a woman, sometimes also you have to tell yourself that you're deserving. Celebrate the wins that you have, because you can't have it all the time. It's possible, yes, but it's not always all the time where you can have it all. And then you also asked about what am I doing as a woman to make sure that I'm uplifting other women. I think that one is, I think I had a conversation about this with Toko last week, to say that most of my work will focus especially on working with women so that they're able to participate in political arenas, to make sure that they're taken seriously in spaces. Women are able to speak up, and women are given the empowerment, not just tokenism. Because I think one thing that also we're having these days is to say, committing kunabwera as my 5, and that's it. We take it as it's a win, but that's not a win. Did those women participate in decision making? Are those women being taken seriously? So sometimes my job is to make sure that it's not just taking a number. We're making sure that women are being taken seriously, their opinions are being taken on board, and they're being selected into positions of, of power, of influential power, not just selecting women to be secretaries, taking notes, making sure that we're having impactful participation. And another thing that I also try to do, because I think when you are working in the development sector, one thing that I notice is that people say, I don't want to work with a female manager because women are difficult. That's a stereotype that we, as women, we've had to face. Women don't like to empower other women. They're always mean in the workplace. That's something that I think we hear a lot. So for me as a manager, I took it upon myself to say, you know what, as a leader, I'm going to break that stereotype. We can all do it in the workplace. We can all say, you know what, I don't want to be part of that stereotype. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if other people have experienced difficult female managers, but it's something that has been said to me a lot of times. So one of the things that I do as personally myself is to make sure that in the workplace, I'm empowering other women. I'm not putting them down. I'm not participating in, petty office gossip. It's the small things that you do that I think sometimes in the long term, they're going to have a bigger impact. And then for the last one, maybe I'll let Toko also elaborate, but how are we going to work together as women? I think some of the things that we can do is this, having a lunchtime conversation as women, sharing best practices, sharing challenges. What are we doing? How are we fighting fighting the patriarchy. So stuff like that. This is one of the things that I think we're doing as women, and Toko can elaborate as well, to say that sometimes it just takes a conversation like this to hear from other women, to learn the way that you and I have talked today, to say, oh, this is what somebody else is going through, and how can I use that experience in my own personal life as well? So maybe let me stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tisungane. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to supporting each other or to leave an impact, I think everything comes back to it being intentional about what kind of mark we want to leave behind, each one of us. And really, when it comes to empowering women, you don't have to be in an influential position. Wherever you are, you have to know that you're a role model to another person, right? So each one of us who are here, we have to know that there is nieces, nephews, cousins, extended family members that are really looking up to us and admiring us in our space, right? So we have to be very intentional. When it comes to at a larger scale, it's things like this. I think Tisungane coming here, when she heard that we are hosting these webinars, she was very excited to be part of this. And these webinars are continuing, and there is a lot of things that that we have in store for the future. And one of the things that when we talked with Tisungane at our initial conversation, she was very committed to say, you know what, Toko, in the future, even if you want a small funding, whatever support, we're here. I think that's a huge commitment to supporting women empowerment initiatives. And all of us, we need to work together to achieve this, because yeah, it's very challenging to be a woman and to grow your career significantly. Maybe when you are down there, you don't feel it, but when you begin to rise up the ladders, you feel the impact, because there's all these stereotypes that Tisungane talked about. There's a lot of prejudices and negative energy that comes to you as a female leader. There's so much. I'm sure that some of the things are really, really personal that people would say to you in your face sometimes, and you just have to deal with that. I wanted to talk about the issue of managing and balancing work and life, especially as a woman, Tisungane. I know that you have a baby, and growing your career over the years might not be easy. How do you really manage that? You touched on a very important point that sometimes as women, we want to be super women. We want to achieve it all and we want to have it all. But sometimes it's not the case. And so we really need to choose our battles to say, what I think as a woman, I felt so guilty in so many ways not being there for my daughter, because sometimes I kind of feel like I remote control parenting, and I'll be like, do this, do that, and I'm there doing other things. And sometimes we feel bad for doing that, right? But sometimes it's very difficult just to juggle life in. What has that been for you?
Yeah, I think like you said, the mom guilt can really get you, even if you don't have a baby. Sometimes just home responsibilities, can make you feel like maybe I'm neglecting my home, because I'm here trying to, you know, make advances in my career. I think for me, it's not been any different, like what you've said. I think I remember one time when my baby was 4 months old, I had a training that I had to go to. And I think I didn't realize when I had applied for that training that she would be so small. I just thought, oh, she'll be 4 months old, she'll be big. But when the time came, I told my mom, I'm not going to this training, I'm not going to go. And my mother said, you're going to make that sacrifice and you're going to go. I cried the whole way to the airport, and I cried from my whole flight. I cried, you know, and it was just a horrific experience for me that time. But looking back now, it's a sacrifice that I had to make, and it was worth making. And I know I'm not any different to other mothers. We all go through it, even if it's not a training, just leaving your child at home to go to work. But what I would say that it takes a village. I think sometimes you just have to make sure you surround yourself with supportive, whether it's friends or parents or just a community, sometimes to just say, I'm going to need to leave my child with you for a little bit, or can you watch my child? Can you go and check how my home is? And also, I think having a supportive work environment, because it's not all jobs that will understand that your child is sick and you can't come in, or that maybe there's an emergency at home. So sometimes, if you're lucky enough, it's also important that you have a supportive work environment. And for me, I think I've been lucky in the jobs that I've worked at, where I think from just the personality types, but also some of the policies that have been there to say that they've been very accommodative and have allowed for me to be able to juggle having a child, having a home, but also, doing my work. So yeah, I'll say that.
Awesome. Tisungane, there is 2 questions in the chat box. The first one comes from Alice Chemula. It says, how do you fight self-doubt in a male-dominating workplace? And I think that's a huge one there. Even if it's not in a male-dominating like workplace, sometimes just being in leadership position, we kind of like question ourselves, and sometimes you kind of like ask, am I doing the right thing? How do you deal with that? And there is a question from Winnie from ZBS that she says, my question is on the issue to do with overcoming challenges at workplace. How do you handle those workmates, bosses who push you down every time you're working on something?
Okay, so I'll start with the first one. I think it was saying how to fight self-doubt. I think number one is to just always know your self-worth as a person. Always know that you are deserving of the place that you are at. Because sometimes I think as women, or maybe as young leaders, we can say we have this thing called imposter syndrome. You feel you don't belong. You see these people with maybe 2 masters, PhDs, and you're in the same room with them, and you say, what am I going to bring to this table that, this person with 2 PhDs isn't going to bring? So number one is always to know your worth. Make sure that you know that you are there because you're deserving and because you got there on merit. Nobody, pushed you there. Nobody, you didn't, pay your way to the top. You worked for it and you're there because you're deserving. So that's for me, number one. And then number two, I would say is having confidence. I think that's also something to do with the same as knowing your worth. There's a thin line, of course, being confident and being, what's the other word? Cocky, maybe. But I think for me as women, we always have to be able to speak up, always. If you're going to walk into the room, if you're going to say your opinion at a table full of, if it's men or women, make sure that you're confident. They should know that your opinion is something that matters and it's something that is, you have the capabilities to contribute to that space. So always, I think for me, that's number two, always be confident. And then also number three, know that you can have challenges and you can overcome them, because it's not always going to be winning. Sometimes you will make mistakes, and that self-doubt will really creep in when you make those mistakes. But I think for me, it's about making sure that that challenge you faced, you've embraced it and you've overcome it. Whether it's something you made a mistake at work, you talk about it with your supervisor, whether it's something small or big, I think embrace challenges will come. But for me, it's how do you overcome that challenge? Because moving on from a challenge is what defines you, not the challenge itself. And then I think, lastly, I would say to balance self-care. Because yes, we're here to talk about career advancement, how can we be women leaders, but also making sure you're taking care of you mentally, physically, making sure that there's that work-life balance. For me, it always helps me to really dig deep into myself to say, okay, I'm having all these self-doubt issues. Where are they stemming from? And, how can I fix that? So yes, know your worth, be confident, but also be able to really take care of you at the core of who you are. And I think that's, for me, what has worked for me in my career. Maybe other people can also contribute. Been speaking for quite a while. And then I think, what was the other one, Togo?
how do you handle bosses, workmates that push you down every time you're working on something?
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you were on when I was talking about the time I worked with DAI. So when I worked at DAI, I was working in Kasungu. I was based in Kasungu, and I was working with a manager there that pushed me more than I've ever been pushed in my life. Like I said, I tried to resign from this job twice because I was at my wit's end. I was doing my job, I was taking my deliverables, but he just would not give me the credit I deserved. And to me, it was I was constantly being beat down, to the point where I dreaded going to work. And it was becoming now more of a personal issue. So I think what really helped me, like I think I said in the beginning, was I was going to quit. I was a quitter. Unfortunately, in that instant, I was a quitter. But I had people in my corner that were helpful. They were able to mediate. I'm not sure about your situation, but here I had another. What helped me in that situation was that there was another person that was able to mediate and find out what the core issue was, why I was quitting my job when I was performing my job right. So this person really helped to say, don't resign. We're not going to accept the resignation, and we're going to be able to sort of mediate and fix the situation for you. So that's one of the things that I was able to do with. Unfortunately, my first option was to quit, but I think maybe in hindsight, the first option should be to find support systems within the system, because you're not isolated. That's what you should remember, right? Yes, there's this boss, but also there's other people surrounding you. So always be able to report, to be able to involve other people. That's one of the things that you could do. And then I think another thing is also to make sure you're performing, because sometimes, yes, people will attack you, but if you have the backing to say, I do my job and I do it well, for me, that's what is always a good backing point, because even if it comes time for performance evaluations, if you're taking 10, 9, 9, this person, regardless of what, they'll say, you are bringing to the table what you're supposed to be bringing to the table. So that's also one of the things that I would say helps to deal with maybe people who are just not giving you the credit you deserve or trying to beat you down in the workplace. But also, I know some organizations have anonymous reporting, so you can report somebody like that. Always make sure you find a support system in the system. Don't quit like me.
Awesome. There is another question in there, but I wanted to bring to your attention something, Tisungane, that you mentioned, that you went to Catholic University, right?
Yes.
I do, yeah. So at Weinspire, we do career coaching, career development, like all those things to do with people who want to elevate their careers. And I've had conversations, especially with people who are not in the mainstream university system, like the University of Malawi. And I constantly see this self-doubt for people who went to other universities and not the University of Malawi. And I think that is something that I always talk to people, that, you need to feel confident about where you went, and it will be you as an alumni of that university who's going to bring a lot of credit to that university. When you begin to doubt yourself and you've been 4 years with that institution, it's really something that that is sad, right? And so I just wanted to ask you your opinion, or if you've ever experienced this in your work life, to say, have you ever met people who are like alumni from Nzuzu University, Catholic University, and other universities that are not part of the mainstream system, and how do you deal with that, or what's your message to them?
Right, yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's become such an unfortunate narrative right now that people sort of look down on those that maybe did not go to the mainstream universities that you mentioned. They did not go through the UNIMA corridors, as they like to be called. They're not Shanko alumni. And it's really something that I think it can really affect some people, maybe in how they view themselves or how they view their qualifications. But for me, I've always said, I've actually used it as a strength to say that I went to Catholic University. There's this saying that says Catholic University is easy to get into, but it's hard to stay in. That's what I always say. That school is, there's rigorous education systems. And I think that's true for other schools that may not necessarily be public universities. And you will notice right now that even in the workforce, we're having so many different people from Unilia, we're having people from DMI, we're having people from, Lidongo University. I think we're beginning to see a shift whereby, at first people would say, they see your CV, see you're from Catholic University, put it in the trash. But now I think we're beginning, even for me as a hiring manager, I've done a lot of panels, interviews. For me, I even will see maybe a stronger CV coming from somebody that's not necessarily from the corridors of UNIMA. So I think it's about having self-confidence, build your CV and prove yourself in the workplace, because there's also this stereotype that says, oh, maybe because you didn't go to Chango, then you just don't have the work ethic. For me, I say build that work ethic. When you've been employed and given that opportunity, prove yourself, because people are always still having that, negative connotation to say, oh, this one wasn't at Chango, maybe they're not as smart. So go there and show them that you are just as smart. You don't have to overcompensate, because there's nothing wrong with not going through UNIMA, but I think it's just an unfortunate narrative that we have to face here in Malawi. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So there is a comment which says, what if your boss is sexually harassing? I think sexual harassment should never be tolerated and should be reported, but I'll let you answer that. The other question came from Olivia Sonjola. She said, hello, my question is, what if you decided to work as a volunteer for a long time and you see no chance to be promoted? Do you really have to continue in the name of building your CV or just quit?
Okay. So we should start with the sexual harassment. I think like you said, sexual harassment is absolutely something that you should not tolerate. And it's something that the moment you see it, the first time you see it, should be reported and should be stopped immediately. Because I think one thing that I've noticed as a young woman, when it starts small, someone can make a joke today, oh, you have maybe big boobs. The next day it'll be, oh, but your legs are nice. Then the next day they'll try to touch your legs. Then they'll try to touch those, because maybe the first time you laughed it off. And I think as women, we tend to say, if I'm too serious, they will not want to work with me. If I don't laugh at their jokes, they will say, this one, she's not, she's not friendly. That's what they want to call it. But this sexual harassment comes in different forms, even verbal. Just saying those kind of jokes is sexual harassment. And for me, I think always put a stop to it the moment it begins, even if they say you're too serious. And then if there's a chance to report it, even anonymously through HR or even just through other means, if there's other supervisors that you can report it, always report sexual harassment, because you don't want it to get to a point where it's someone will say, but what if this started 6 months ago, why did you not report it? Because, women will always get blamed to say, oh, but you've been smiling these last 6 months. Why are you reporting now? So I feel like the moment you spot it, even if it's in the form of jokes, report it and put a stop to it. And it's good if organizations have ways to report anonymously, because sometimes it can cost you your job. It's not easy to report a harasser, especially if they're a supervisor or if they maybe they're top there in, those male figures. It's not easy. I'm not saying that, but if there's an anonymous way to do it, I think always report it and put a stop immediately to it. That's what I would say. And then the second one, Nanthoka, you said?
Give me a moment. If you decided to work as a volunteer and for a long time, and you see no chances of you being promoted,
That's tricky. I mean, I won't lie to you. I think when we all go to school, we all want to make money at the end, right? We want to say, I finished my school, I started work, I volunteered, or I got a job, now I get paid. And so maybe you've been volunteering for a little while and you're seeing that there's no chance of somebody maybe giving you that permanent employment. It doesn't seem like maybe they're going to even start paying you. It can be discouraging, because you can't go to work with transport every day and never get paid. You can't eat lunch every day at work and not get paid. It can be discouraging. But for me, I would say any work experience is better than no work experience. In this case, for me, if it was becoming financially constraining for you, I would say maybe discuss it with your supervisor to say, maybe can I have a 3-day working week, because it's becoming a bit too much for me to volunteer every day. Maybe that will cut down on costs, because I say that it's better for you to be doing that job, even if it's not maybe gainfully giving you any financial sort of help, rather than for you not to be doing it at all. CVs carry weight over time, because yes, it's okay to have a gap here and there, but sometimes you never know when the opportunity will come. So I would say that try to discuss modalities to say, okay, maybe it's too much for me to be going to this work where they're not paying me 5 days a week. Can I cut it down to 3 days? Or maybe can I work half day so that I can go and have lunch at home? So it's those things where you're now trying to find your way around that unpaid thing in volunteership. But also sometimes it's also good to just be honest, discuss it with your supervisor to say, is there anywhere where I can be provided a stipend, even if it's just for transport? There's no harm in speaking up. I think that for me, that's what I've seen, that sometimes people are just waiting for you to bring it to the table. So sometimes if you see that opportunity, you can always also bring it up to say, is there a way where maybe I could be provided with a transport stipend? And especially right now with the cost of living, I think it would be unfair to expect somebody to show up consistently and work as a volunteer for such a long period of time. But I would advise you to keep at it, because you never know when a door will open during that volunteership.
I also wanted to just add, Tisungane, that I think everyone here, when you're going to volunteer, you have to have objectives of your volunteership. I think if we enter into a work system with the intention of volunteering, and we are not intentional about maybe building a particular skill or having specific objectives, we'll find ourselves in circles and just being stuck in that system for a long time. I think volunteerism is a good thing, but when we are stepping into that environment, we really need to have clear objectives. What are you going there for? I see a lot of people just volunteering for the sake of volunteering, even with a work system that doesn't really relate to their objectives, or that doesn't align to anything that they've done. And as a result, you find yourself in a work environment and it will frustrate you so much. And I think once you enter into that system, it has to first of all align with what your objectives in your career. It also has to resonate somehow with what you want to achieve in the future. When you enter into there, discuss those objectives thoroughly with your supervisor to say, I'm here, I want to achieve these objectives, and I need support achieving these objectives. I think at a certain point, you will realize that, you know what, you're checking your list and you're like, I think I've achieved all these and I can go and step into another role or another, organization altogether and continue to grow I think that way you will reduce a lot of frustrations that come with volunteerism.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. Hello. So this is Linda. Linda Chipojola says, how do you handle a situation where you are a junior and you've been promoted now, and you have to lead your colleagues whom you were on the same position with?
Yeah, that can be tricky.
Yeah.
Very, very true. I think, yeah, in any situation that can be very, very tricky, because these people were seeing you as a junior, and so you obviously have apprehension. Are they going to listen to you? Are they going to allow you to take on that leadership role, or do they still have this sort of in their mind, I used to do that junior? I think for me, the first thing that you have to ensure is to make sure that you're not coming in with, I'm now your superior, I used to be a junior. You don't come in with that attitude, because sometimes as a leader, you do want your team to, leading a team effectively, you want them to be on your side. I'm not saying, to stoop to sort of like just give into everything, but sometimes when you do get into that leadership role, for me, number one is to make sure you get everybody on board and make sure that you dispel those. Some people have fears, some people just have, what do you call them? Just assumptions, right? That, oh, now that this one is coming into this position, maybe she'll try to boss us around. But I think as you take on that leadership role, for me, I would say convene the team and, say, we're going to continue to work effectively as a team. And just because I've now been promoted doesn't mean that I'm against you, or that now, you suddenly don't matter. Because some people, they will try to prove that I was here before you, or I should have seniority. So make sure that you first make sure that there is that team cohesion before you even begin your new role. And then I think number two is also to make sure that there's good communication within the team, because maybe, like I said, when you come into that role, there's always going to be fears, there's always going to be connotations that people have in their mind. But as a leader, make sure that there's that open communication. People can come to you and you can also go to them freely. So just because you've come into this position doesn't mean that suddenly you are against them. And so I think that's what I would say. A short answer. I'm looking at the time. Short answer. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's so accurate. I'm looking at the time as well, and it's 12:57. I want to let people go because people have work to do. But I just wanted to thank you, Tisungane, for being here. I think these nuggets are very, very invaluable, and I know that we've picked nuggets, and I also believe that this will not be the last time we have you, because I've seen the interest in the the interesting stories that you've shared. I think next time we have you, we're gonna specifically have like nailed down to a specific topic so that we can just expand on that and share with our audience here. For everyone else, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Our next webinar is gonna be next Monday, the same time, but be on the lookout on our social media pages. That's where we're gonna share the registration link, and everyone tell a woman to tell another woman about this and these powerful conversations. We really thank you. Tisungane, if you have any final words to the people here, I can see there is Men too here. So Men, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure having you in the room. So yeah, go ahead, Tisungane, before we close.
No, thank you so much to everyone that took time from their lunch hour to join us today for this conversation. I think even for me, it was a learning. The questions that you gave, the comments that you gave also allowed me to learn a little bit about what everybody else is also involved in. And I thank you to Weinspire for having me. And I look forward to many more of these conversations and obviously joining your subsequent webinars. And thank you so much to everybody that was able to join. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to join our next conversation, but also to sign up for the event, in-person event that's happening on 15th March. Please reach out to Tamandani for more information. It's only 20,000 Malawi Kwacha, and there's going to be more. So looking forward to have you all and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.